More than a century after its publication, The Secret Doctrine still fascinates scientists, philosophers, and mystics. Einstein himself reportedly kept a copy of Blavatsky's work on his desk. Thomas Edison called her the woman who knew what energy really was. Even Carl Jung, though critical of her mystical tone, admitted that she was touching something profoundly archetypal, the very roots of the collective unconscious. But what did she actually reveal that was so disturbing that the world preferred to forget it? Blavatsky began with a simple, radical idea: humanity has amnesia. We've forgotten who we are, where we come from, and what we're capable of. She said that our history, the one we're taught, is only a fragment of a far older, vaster narrative. According to the Secret Doctrine, civilization didn't begin a few thousand years ago with Mesopotamia or Egypt. It began millions of years ago, in ages now erased from memory. That's not a metaphor, she meant it literally. She claimed she had access to ancient manuscripts, the stanzas of Dzyan, texts older than Sanskrit, older than any religion. She said they were preserved by initiates in Tibet, describing the creation of the universe, the birth of consciousness, and the evolution of beings long before our species appeared. When you read those first pages, it feels like standing before a cosmic mirror. There is no dead matter, she wrote. Everything is alive. Science in her time mocked this idea, yet today quantum physics says almost the same thing. Energy and consciousness are intertwined. The boundaries between mind and matter are thinner than we think. What Blavatsky called spirit matter, two faces of the same reality, is now echoed by modern thinkers like David Bohm or Rupert Sheldrake. The book begins not with man, but with the universe as a living organism. Everything breathes together, evolves together, and within that vast motion, we, humanity, are the bridge between the visible and the invisible. Blavatsky insisted that the fall of man wasn't a punishment, but a forgetting, a necessary descent into matter so that spirit could experience itself through form. That idea sounds abstract, but think about it. How many times do we feel disconnected from something greater, like we're searching for a meaning that keeps slipping away? She said that this feeling isn't random. It's the echo of our ancient memory, the moment we chose to forget in order to rediscover. In that sense, life itself becomes a spiritual education. Every struggle, every doubt, is part of remembering what we once knew. She divided humanity's evolution into vast cycles or root races, each representing a stage in the awakening of consciousness. According to her, we are the fifth. Before us came the Atlanteans, and before them the Lemurians. Not myths, but symbolic memories of real epochs when spirit and matter were still united. Modern anthropology laughs at this, yet even today, scientists find structures on the ocean floor that don't fit known timelines, and geneticists discover ancient DNA branches that challenge linear evolution. Whether literal or allegorical, Blavatsky's version forces us to ask, what if history repeats because memory itself is cyclic? And there's something deeply psychological in that. She describes the collective forgetting of humanity the same way modern therapists describe trauma. A wound so vast it pushes the truth deep into the unconscious. And just as a person must revisit their pain to heal, humanity too must face its forgotten origin to evolve. You can feel that tension in her writing, a pull between revelation and danger, as if unveiling too much truth too soon could burn us. She warns that the secret doctrine is not for curiosity, but for transformation. That's where it becomes personal. Because when she talks about the universe awakening, she's also talking about you, about us. Every time we question our purpose, every time we seek meaning beyond material success, we're echoing that ancient call. We're remembering. Still, there's a reason this knowledge was called forbidden. The idea that divinity lives within us, that we are sparks of the same creative fire that built the cosmos, was considered heresy. Religions demanded obedience, science demanded proof. Blavatsky offered neither. She offered experience, inner vision, meditation, intuition. She claimed that if we silence the noise of the world long enough, we can hear the universe speaking through us. And maybe that's why her book still matters. Because it doesn't just describe the cosmos, it challenges us to see our place within it. We are not accidental beings in a mechanical universe. We are the universe waking up to itself. But if that's true, why did we forget? Why did consciousness choose to descend into darkness, into matter, into limitation? The answer, she said, lies in the stanzas of Dzyan, ancient verses that describe the moment before time began, when silence itself gave birth to creation. And it's there in those lines hidden for millennia that we begin to understand the real secret Blavatsky tried to share. In the next part, we open the book's heart, the 7 stanzas of Dzyan, and uncover the cosmic blueprint she believed explained everything, from the birth of stars to the awakening of the human soul. But first, leave a like and tell me if you're interested in the topic in the comments. Thank you. When Blavatsky published The Secret Doctrine in 1888, she claimed that her book was only a commentary. The real revelation lay in something older, something she called the stanzas of Dzyan. Even today, no scholar has found a confirmed source for these texts. They don't exist in any known library, not even in the archives of Tibet, where she said they were guarded by initiates of a hidden brotherhood. But the strange part is this. When scientists examined ancient Sanskrit cosmologies, Buddhist tantras, and Gnostic manuscripts, they found fragments of the same story told differently. It was as if the stanzas were the missing map that once united all traditions. Blavatsky described the stanzas as the oldest record of creation, not a myth, but a metaphysical science written in symbols. She said they were part of the Book of Dzyan, a text in the mysterious language of Senzar known only to adepts. What she revealed in The Secret Doctrine was a translation limited by words but alive with power. The first stanza begins before time, before form, when there was only the eternal parent wrapped in her ever-invisible robes. Modern cosmology calls it the singularity, the point before the Big Bang. Blavatsky called it the boundless, immutable principle, the source of all consciousness. She wrote that everything, from galaxies to human souls, unfolds from that silence like ripples from a single breath. If you think about it, that vision isn't so different from what quantum theory or unified field physics suggests today. That reality is an ocean of vibrating energy, and what we perceive as solid matter is simply condensed light. But in her time, that was unimaginable. She wrote that the universe is worked and guided from within outwards, meaning that consciousness precedes creation, not the other way around. The world, she said, is the dream of the divine mind, and we, the dreamers within it. Each of the 7 stanzas describes a phase of this cosmic awakening. The first speaks of the darkness before manifestation, the eternal rest. The second of the first stirring of movement within stillness, the birth of vibration or sound. Then the third introduces the light, not physical light, but awareness itself. The mother swells, expanding from within without, she wrote, describing the universe inflating from its own inner pulse. The following stanzas speak of differentiation, spirit becoming matter, the one becoming many, and the first sparks of intelligence taking form. In modern language, she was describing evolution on a cosmic scale, from the invisible to the visible, from energy to consciousness to life. But what makes this so powerful is how she linked it to us. The stanzas weren't just about stars and galaxies. They were about the human soul. Each phase of cosmic creation mirrors our own development, conception, birth, growth, awareness. The same laws that shape the heavens shape our inner world. As above, so below, she wrote, echoing the Hermetic axiom. The universe is a vast reflection of the mind, and the mind is a microcosm of the universe. You start to see that she wasn't inventing a new religion. She was trying to reconnect what had been separated, science and spirit, matter and meaning. When she spoke of invisible forces, she wasn't denying reason. She was expanding it. She argued that true science would one day rediscover what ancient wisdom already knew, that consciousness is not produced by the brain, but uses it as an instrument. This idea, once mocked, now echoes through neuroscience and philosophy of mind. Blavatsky believed the stanzas contained an esoteric key to time itself. The cycles of expansion and contraction, the outbreathing and inbreathing of the cosmos, reflected every rhythm in nature, from planetary motion to human emotion. "Nothing is random," she said. "Everything follows the same pulse, the heartbeat of the universe. When you meditate deeply enough, when you silence the personal mind, you can feel it, that same pulse within your chest, the microcosm remembering the macrocosm." Some accused her of plagiarism, others of fabrication. But even skeptics like Aldous Huxley and W.B. Yeats later admitted that her synthesis influenced the birth of modern metaphysics and psychology. Jung's theory of archetypes, theosophical movements, even Einstein's fascination with energy and form, they all carry the echoes of her cosmic vision. She forced the world to ask questions it wasn't ready for. What if evolution is not only biological, but spiritual? What if creation never ended, and we're still participating in it right now? In The Secret Doctrine, the 7 stanzas end with humanity's first awakening, when self-consciousness arises and the divine remembers itself through form. It's a sacred paradox. We are both the creation and the creators, both the dream and the dreamer. But the story doesn't stop there, because if the universe is alive and aware, who guides it? Who are the invisible intelligences she called the architects of form? Were they myths, metaphors, or something more real than we dare to imagine? Blavatsky once wrote that nothing in the universe happens blindly. To her, evolution was not a mechanical accident. It was guided. Behind every form, behind every spark of life, there were intelligences shaping, observing, and nurturing. She called them the Dzyan Chohan, lords of flame, beings so ancient that even gods were once their pupils. And she claimed that these entities are not fantasy, but the invisible architects of human evolution, working in silence since the dawn of time. In The Secret Doctrine, she describes their presence in the 3rd stanza of Dzyan, when the first spiritual beings descended into the shadows of matter. They were not angels in the Christian sense, nor demons, but cosmic engineers, emanations of divine thought. Their role was to awaken consciousness in humanity once physical forms were ready. In other words, they were the bridge between the divine and the biological. Think about this for a second. Modern science still cannot explain the great leap in human evolution, that sudden emergence of self-awareness, language, and creativity. Anthropologists call it the cognitive revolution. But Blavatsky, almost a century earlier, offered a different explanation. Consciousness didn't simply evolve, it was ignited. The Dzyan Chohans breathed mind into matter. That's why she called them the Manasaputras, sons of mind. We find echoes of this idea across cultures. The Bible speaks of the sons of God descending to earth. Sumerian myths mention the Anunnaki, beings from the heavens who shaped early mankind. In Egypt, the gods Thoth and Ptah gave knowledge to humans. In Hinduism, the Prajapatis and Rishis performed the same task. Blavatsky argued that all these stories are fragments of a single ancient truth, distorted over millennia but pointing to one cosmic event, the moment spirit entered flesh. And she didn't see these architects as omnipotent. They too evolve. The universe, in her view, is a vast hierarchy of consciousness, from the tiniest atom to the highest being, each learning, creating, and perfecting. Humanity, then, is both student and teacher. We inherit the flame of intelligence, and through us, the cosmos becomes self-aware. It's a cycle. The gods create man, and man one day becomes godlike. Blavatsky even hinted that some of these higher beings still walk among us, not as supernatural saviors, but as enlightened humans who have transcended the limits of ordinary evolution. She called them Mahatmas, great souls, guardians of knowledge who silently influence the course of human progress. In letters she received from these masters of wisdom, they describe themselves as custodians of the ancient doctrine, waiting for humanity to mature enough to handle it responsibly. To a modern reader, that might sound like myth. But there's something psychologically profound here. Think of these beings not as literal entities, but as archetypes, higher aspects of our own consciousness. The Dzyan Chohans represent what we might become when we awaken the dormant potential within. Every breakthrough in art, science, or morality could be seen as a whisper, from that higher intelligence, the architect within. Carl Jung later described something similar, the self as an inner guiding force that shapes our growth, leading us toward wholeness. It's as if Blavatsky anticipated depth psychology by decades, only she spoke its language in symbols. The idea that divine intelligence operates both in the cosmos and in us, that what gives, the secret doctrine, its timeless power. But Blavatsky also warned that not all intelligences serve the same purpose. Just as light casts shadows, evolution carries resistance. Some of the lords of flame, she said, refused to descend into matter. They remained pure, detached, and because of that, they were called rebels. Yet she didn't demonize them. She saw in their defiance the birth of individuality. The refusal of some to obey divine law gave humanity the capacity to choose, to err, to grow through freedom. The myth of Lucifer, the bringer of light, takes on a whole new meaning here. Not evil, but the gift of self-consciousness through contrast. That's why she insisted that good and evil are relative, parts of the same process of awakening. In her cosmology, darkness isn't an enemy. It's the crucible of wisdom. Without opposition, there's no growth. Without dissent, there's no ascent. That's the eternal paradox of creation. To awaken, we must first fall asleep to what we are. When you start seeing life this way, every challenge, every loss, every inner conflict begins to look different. Maybe what we call fate isn't punishment. It's design. Maybe the struggles you face are the same invisible architects shaping your consciousness from within, forging strength where weakness once lived. And yet, this idea raises an even deeper question. If humanity was guided, if consciousness was ignited, then what happened next? How did we lose contact with those guiding intelligences? How did we fall so deeply into material illusion that we forgot our teachers, our purpose, our light? In the next part, we uncover the moment of rupture, the descent of the divine man into matter, and why, according to Blavatsky, our fall was not a tragedy but the beginning of true awakening. Blavatsky said humanity's greatest mystery isn't our rise, it's our fall. Not a fall from grace but from light. She called it the descent into matter, a journey the soul chose, not as punishment but as purpose. The angels didn't push us out of paradise. We walked out willingly, curious to know what it meant to become. In the Secret Doctrine, this moment is both cosmic and intimate. It's the story of the universe awakening within itself and forgetting, so it can remember again through experience. Every myth on earth tells this story in disguise. Adam and Eve leaving Eden, Prometheus stealing fire, the Hindu Purusha dividing himself into countless forms. Blavatsky insisted these are not separate tales. They're fragments of a single memory, coded deep within us. Humanity's fall wasn't moral but metaphysical. Spirit descended into flesh, clothed itself in density, and said, "Now I will learn what it means to be human." Science calls it evolution. She called it involution, the spirit involving itself in matter. Every cell, every breath, every emotion is that divine essence learning how to express itself through form. We are not sinners reaching for heaven. We are gods exploring what it means to be mortal. But this forgetting came at a cost. As we became more enmeshed in matter, we lost our memory of the light. The physical world became our only reality. The soul, trapped in its own creation, began to believe it was separate. You can feel it even today. That strange ache when life feels empty, when success or pleasure doesn't satisfy. It's not failure, it's nostalgia. The soul remembers something higher, but can't name it. Blavatsky said this is the root of human suffering, not sin but separation. Yet she also said this was necessary. Just as the seed must fall into the dark soil before it can bloom, consciousness must descend into limitation before it can awaken to infinity. She described the early humanity, the third root race, as beings of light, ethereal forms before solid flesh existed. They were guided by the lords of flame, learning slowly to use their new physicality. But something extraordinary happened. Some of these beings began to develop self-awareness before their time, the birth of ego, the spark of individuality. This, she said, was the moment of choice, the turning point between instinct and reason, unity and separation. From then on, humanity became a battlefield of forces, divine and material, fighting for balance within us. Psychologically, it's the same inner conflict we live every day. The part of us that knows there's more versus the part addicted to the visible world. Blavatsky saw this tension not as a curse, but as the forge of evolution. Every desire, every error, every act of will refines the soul, forcing it to rediscover the divine through human experience. She compared it to a child learning to walk, falling again and again, yet with every fall gaining mastery. Modern thinkers like Joseph Campbell later recognized the same archetype, the hero's journey, where descent always precedes transformation. Jung too spoke of the shadow, the descent into the unconscious as a path to wholeness. It's astonishing how these later psychological models mirror what Blavatsky wrote decades earlier, that enlightenment is not escape from darkness, but its transmutation. In The Secret Doctrine, she warns that those who deny matter deny half of existence. Spirit needs form as much as form needs spirit. The divine doesn't live outside the world, it pulses within it. Every physical atom, she said, is a sleeping God. Our task is not to reject the material, but to spiritualize it, to lift it back toward the light it came from. And this gives a new meaning to human struggle. When you face pain, when you lose direction, when everything seems meaningless, what if it's not chaos but initiation? What if you're being tempered like steel, shaped by invisible forces to remember what you truly are? Blavatsky wrote, "Man must fall into matter to rise again as a god." That's the paradox. Only through forgetting can we learn the value of remembering. It's here that her teaching becomes not just cosmic, but deeply personal. We are all in that descent. Every heartbreak, every loss, every disappointment is a fragment of the greater descent of spirit into experience. And each time we choose understanding over bitterness, awareness over blindness, we participate in the great return, the re-ascent. But the Secret Doctrine doesn't stop at the human story. It expands outward, suggesting that entire civilizations mirror this same cycle, rising in light, falling into material obsession, and collapsing so new wisdom can emerge. Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt, they all walked this path before us, and their remnants, according to Blavatsky, still whisper through myth, architecture, and memory. Now we follow those whispers into the lost civilizations themselves, Atlantis, Lemuria, and others, and uncover what Blavatsky revealed about their knowledge, their downfall, and what their forgotten science can still teach us today. When you open The Secret Doctrine and reach the chapters on lost civilizations, you feel like crossing a threshold between myth and memory. Blavatsky claimed that our modern world is only the faint echo of ages far greater than we dare imagine. She wrote of Lemuria, a continent now buried beneath the Indian and Pacific Oceans, and Atlantis, the bridge between spirit and matter, intellect and intuition. To her, these were not legends. They were forgotten epochs, erased not by fantasy, but by cataclysm and time. Mainstream science rejects such ideas, but consider this: over 70% of our planet's surface remains unexplored beneath the oceans. Structures like Yonaguni in Japan, the ruins near Cuba's coast, and ancient maps showing ice-free Antarctica challenge what we think we know. Even Plato, 2,000 years before Blavatsky, spoke of Atlantis as a real civilization destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune. Blavatsky said Plato was repeating what the Egyptian priests had already told Solon, fragments of a truth older than history itself. According to her, Lemuria was humanity's cradle of physical form, the third root race. They were colossal beings, half spiritual, half material, who lived before the poles shifted, when Earth's gravity and atmosphere were different. Their world was fluid, luminous, their consciousness more instinctive than rational. They communicated through symbols, not words, and perceived life as vibration, not separation. When their time ended through natural transformation and cosmic change, Atlantis rose, the fourth root race, inheriting their wisdom but mixing it with intellect and desire. Atlantis, she wrote, reached a level of technology and psychic mastery that makes our modern era look primitive. They understood the laws of energy, magnetism, and vibration as sacred sciences. They could manipulate matter through sound, harness solar and telluric currents, and use crystalline structures to amplify thought. Ancient temples aligned perfectly with celestial patterns, and their society was built upon initiatory orders that linked science, art, and spirituality. Yet it all collapsed, not by accident, but by imbalance. Blavatsky said the Atlanteans fell because they forgot the unity behind their power. Pride, the thirst for control, and the misuse of psychic energy fractured their civilization. They built monstrous engines, she wrote, and played with the forces of nature until the waters rose and devoured their works. The great flood of every culture, Noah's Ark, Deucalion, Utnapishtim, all echo that same memory, the destruction of Atlantis. And from its survivors, she said, came the seeds of Egypt, India, and the Americas. It's easy to dismiss this as allegory, yet it resonates psychologically. Think of our modern world, obsessed with technology, intoxicated by progress, yet spiritually starved. Are we not repeating Atlantis' story on another scale? We've learned to split the atom, but not our ego. We connect through machines, yet feel more alone than ever. Blavatsky's warning was not about geography, but consciousness. Civilizations rise and fall as reflections of the human psyche. When the inner balance collapses, the outer world mirrors it. But the secret doctrine doesn't leave us in despair. It insists that knowledge is never lost, only hidden until we're ready to remember. The wisdom of the Atlanteans, she said, survived in mystery schools, Egypt's priesthood, India's Vedic seers, the Druids, the Kabbalists, the Gnostics. All carried fragments of the same sacred science, the union of mind and cosmos, of the visible and invisible. That's why across continents, pyramids, mandalas, and sacred geometry echo the same proportions. It's the language of the One translated into stone, and perhaps that's why these myths still pull at us. Deep down, we sense they're not fiction, but memory. Humanity keeps retelling Atlantis because we feel we've lived it before. In dreams, in déjà vu, in fascination with lost worlds, something in us remembers the weight of oceans, the brilliance of forgotten light. Blavatsky said that memory is not nostalgia, but prophecy. The past civilizations are not gone. They live within our collective soul, guiding us through the same evolutionary spiral. She believed each new epoch carries the karma of the previous one, lessons unfinished, energies unresolved. What Atlantis failed to balance, we must now redeem. Our technological awakening is not evil. It's another chance. The key is consciousness. If we can merge knowledge with wisdom, intellect with compassion, maybe this time the light will not fall again. But there's another layer to this mystery, one that moves from the external world of ruins and floods to the inner architecture of the soul. Because Blavatsky insisted that what was once true for civilizations is also true for individuals. Inside each of us lies the same lost continent, an Atlantis of memory and intuition buried beneath the noise of the mind. And like explorers of old, we must dive into our own depths to recover it. Before moving on to the next and most important part, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss the next videos. Thank you. Blavatsky often said that man is the microcosm of the macrocosm. The universe lives within us just as we live within it. And in the Secret Doctrine, this is not poetry, it's anatomy. The same forces that created galaxies, stars, and atoms also shaped the human being. We are not mere observers of the cosmos, we are its living reflection. But to understand this, she said, we must first rediscover the structure of our own soul. She described humanity as sevenfold, 7 principles, each corresponding to a layer of the universe. Today we speak of body, mind, and spirit as separate, but Blavatsky saw them as vibrations on one continuous spectrum of consciousness. The lowest principle is the physical body, the instrument through which we experience the world. Above it is vitality, the prana that animates all life. Then comes the astral body, the subtle double that mirrors our emotions and desires. Beyond that lies the kama-mana, the lower mind, our seat of passions, ego, and attachment to identity. But that's only half of us. Higher still is manas, the divine mind capable of self-awareness and intuition. Then buddhi, the principle of wisdom, the quiet voice that knows truth beyond reason. And finally, Atma, the universal spirit, the spark of the Absolute itself. Together, these seven form the ladder of consciousness, from the most material to the most divine. Humanity, she said, is the bridge between both worlds. You might think of it like light passing through a prism. One beam, seven colors. The beam is spirit. The colors are our levels of being. Most of us live only within the lower hues, body, emotion, and thought, unaware of the higher frequencies already inside us. But the purpose of life, according to the Secret Doctrine, is not to reject the lower, but to harmonize all seven. Man is a god in exile, she wrote, and his return depends on self-knowledge. This is where Blavatsky's esotericism becomes psychology. She wasn't just describing invisible planes, she was describing our inner struggles, the tension between ego and intuition, between desire and wisdom, between chaos and clarity. These are the daily battles of the seven principles within us. When you feel torn between what you want and what you know is right, that's Kama and Manas wrestling for dominance. When you experience moments of sudden insight, when time seems to stop and understanding floods your mind, that's Buddhi touching your awareness. Modern neuroscience speaks of brain hemispheres, layers of consciousness, and frequencies of awareness. But beneath the scientific terms, the pattern is the same. Meditation, therapy, creative flow, all are methods of aligning the inner structure. Theosophy simply gave it a symbolic map long before psychology or quantum biology existed. Blavatsky warned, though, that awakening these inner layers without discipline could be dangerous. Many in her time sought shortcuts, seances, occult rituals, trances, trying to pierce the veil of higher worlds without preparation. She said such attempts often lead to imbalance because the lower self must first be purified before it can safely channel the higher. The soul, she wrote, is like a temple. If its pillars are crooked, the light entering it distorts into shadow. And yet, she was not against exploration. She believed that every human has the right and the duty to evolve consciously. The true path, she said, is through ethical living, study, and meditation, the gradual awakening of Buddhi through compassion and understanding. Only by mastering the lower self can we merge with the higher. What's striking is how modern spiritual traditions echo her words. Mindfulness, Jungian individuation, the hero's inner journey, all lead toward integration. The seven principles aren't just mystical jargon, they're a map of self-realization. When we harmonize them, the boundaries between inner and outer worlds dissolve. The same intelligence that moves stars begins to move through us. And this changes everything. When you understand that your anger, fear, and doubt are not enemies but energies to be refined, you stop running from them. You start to transmute them, like alchemy of the soul. That's what Blavatsky meant by initiation. It isn't about secret societies or ancient temples. It's about turning your own being into the temple, where every thought becomes sacred, every emotion becomes a teacher, every action becomes an offering. She said the ultimate goal is Atma Buddhi Manas, the union of spirit, wisdom, and mind, when the human becomes fully awake, no longer separate from the cosmos. In that state, the seeker realizes there was never a fall, only a journey. The universe was never outside, it was always within. But this revelation opens another question. One Blavatsky saved for last. If we are divine beings awakening within matter, what is the next step? Where is evolution taking us, not just biologically but spiritually? Are we approaching a new dawn or repeating the cycle of forgetting once again? Helena Blavatsky didn't write The Secret Doctrine to glorify the past. She wrote it to prepare us for the future, and according to her, that future would not be ruled by machines or dogmas, but by consciousness itself. The day will come, she said, when science and spirituality will clasp hands, when the unseen will become measurable, and when man will know that he is the universe looking at itself. Those words, written in 1888, sound almost prophetic today. Blavatsky believed we are entering the sixth root race, the next great evolutionary stage of humanity, not a new species, but a new state of awareness. The shift would not happen overnight or through technology, but through inner awakening, the realization that separation is an illusion. Every thought, every emotion, every action ripples through the collective web of life. What we call me and you are simply waves in the same vast ocean of consciousness. She foresaw two paths ahead, one of harmony, where humans evolve in balance with nature guided by wisdom, and another of self-destruction, where intellect grows faster than morality, leading to chaos and collapse, just as it did in Atlantis. The choice, she said, would depend on whether we awaken in time. You can feel how current her warning sounds: wars of ideology, ecological collapse, the emptiness of hyper-connectivity. It's as if we are living in the test she predicted more than a century ago. But Blavatsky's prophecy wasn't pessimistic. She saw these crises as contractions before birth, the labor of a new consciousness emerging. She said that as the old systems crumble, new souls, more intuitive, compassionate, and awake, would begin to appear. They would not belong to any religion or nation. Their loyalty would be to truth itself. The new race, she wrote, will be those who see through the eyes of the soul, not the eyes of flesh. Psychologists today speak of collective evolution, of empathy as the next step in human intelligence. Neuroscience explores coherence between brain and heart. Quantum physics reveals the interconnectedness of all things. What Blavatsky described symbolically is unfolding in real time, a merging of science and mysticism, of data and spirit. We are beginning to measure what the ancients only intuited, that consciousness shapes reality. She predicted that this awakening would not come through religion, but through direct experience, meditation, intuition, and what she called the voice of the silence. A simple idea: truth is not taught, it is remembered. When you quiet the mind long enough, you begin to hear what she described as the music of the spheres, the living pulse of the cosmos resonating within your own heart. That, she said, is the return of the light, not a cosmic event, but a personal one. In that sense, the Secret Doctrine is less a book and more a mirror. It reflects who we were, who we are, and who we are becoming. It invites us to see the pattern behind the chaos, the intelligence behind evolution. Every cycle of destruction is followed by renewal. Every fall carries the seed of ascent. Humanity's long descent into matter was not failure, it was apprenticeship. The suffering, the confusion, the search, all of it was the training ground for a higher form of being. When she spoke of returning to the light, Blavatsky didn't mean escaping the world. She meant transforming it. To bring spirit into matter, wisdom into action, compassion into structure. Each of us is a fragment of that transformation. Every act of understanding, every moment of awareness, is part of the universe remembering itself. And perhaps that is the real prophecy, not a distant event, but something already happening through us. We are the bridge she wrote about, the continuation of the doctrine she only began to reveal. As consciousness expands, the hidden truths of the past rise again, not as superstition, but as science rediscovered through spirit. So when you look at the world today, the noise, the conflict, the fear, remember what she said. In the darkest hour before dawn, humanity rediscovers the flame, the E. That flame is within us. We are the forgotten gods learning once again to create, not through domination but through awareness. The same cosmic breath that once shaped the stars now moves through our own evolution. And so the circle closes. The universe descends into matter, humanity awakens within it, and the divine remembers itself through our eyes. The journey that began in silence ends in light, and perhaps, as Blavatsky believed, it begins again on a higher octave. Because the secret doctrine was never truly secret, it was only waiting for us to remember. But in truth, the beginning of another cycle, the moment where knowledge becomes consciousness, and the cosmos once again finds its voice through us.